Badarayani Ruvacha Evam Krita Vyabhashito Dadyan Atharvanastanum Pare Bhagavati Bhamani Admanam Sanayam Jaho Shri Badarayani Ruvacha Evam Krita Vyavashito Dadhyanyan Atharvanantanum Hare Bhagavati Brahmani Atmanam Sanayam Jaho. Pose. Shri Badarayani Ruvacha Evan Krita Vyavashito Hare Bhagavati Brahmani Adman Sanayam Jaho Shri Badarayane Uvacha Evam Krita Vyavashito Bhagavati Brahmani Adman Sanayam Jaho Shri Badarayana Uvacha Evam Krita Vyavashito Hare Bhagavati Brahmani Matajis Evam Krita Vyavashito Adhyam Atharvanastanum Hare Bhagavati Brahmani Admanam Sanayam Jaho Shri Badarayani Ruvacha Sri Badarayani Sri Badarayani Uvacha Sri Sukadev Goswami said Evam thus Krita Vyavashitaha making certain of what to do. This is within brackets. In giving his body to the demigods. Dadyan Dadichi Muni Atharvana the son of Atharva Tanum his body Pare to the Supreme Bhagavati personality of Godhead Brahmani the Supreme Brahman Atmanam, himself, the spirit soul. Sanayan, offering. Jaho, gave up. Anyone has the Bhagavatam electronically? Because there's a piece of the page ripped. So I will need your help, or if you can give it to me. Because someone had stolen the treasure. Yeah. Okay. There's a piece missing here. Thank you. So, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, want to repeat? Sri Sukadev Goswami said, Dadichi Muni, the son of Atharva, thus resolved to give his body to the service of the demigods. He placed himself, the spirit soul, at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this way, gave up his gross material body, made of 5 elements. Srila Prabhupada explains, as indicated by the words Pare Bhagavati Brahmani Atmanam Sanayan, Dadichi placed himself as a spirit soul at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this regard, one may refer to the incident of Dhritarashtra's leaving his body, as described in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.13.55. Dhritarashtra analytically divided his gross material body into the 5 different elements of which he was made: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and distributed them to the different reservoirs of these elements. In other words, he merged these 5 elements into the original Mahatattva. By identifying his material conception of life, he gradually separated his spirit soul from material connections and placed himself at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The example given in this connection is that when an earthen pot is broken, the small portion of the sky within the pot is united with the large sky outside the pot. Mayavadi philosophers misunderstand this description of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, Sri Ramanuja Swami in his book Vedanta Tattvasara has described that this merging of the soul means that after separating himself from the material body, made of 8 elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, false ego, mind and intelligence, the individual soul engages himself in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his eternal form. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Brahma Samhita 5.1. The material cause of the material elements absorbs the material body, and the spiritual soul assumes its original position. As described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 20.108. The constitutional position of the living entity is that he is the eternal servant of Krishna. When one overcomes the material body through cultivation of a spiritual knowledge and devotional service, one can revive his own position and thus engage in the service of the Lord. I'm just going to repeat the last sentence. When one overcomes the material body through cultivation of a spiritual knowledge and devotional service, one can revive his own position and thus engage in the service of the Lord. Om Tat Sat. Omagyanatimirandasya gyananjana salakaya chakshurunmilitam jena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Ashwamiti Namacharya Padaya Tekita Paramudaya Nagaragramatharine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadharo Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Dadichi Muni, the son of Atharva, thus resolved to give his body to the service of the demigods. He placed himself, the spirit soul, at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in this way gave up his gross material body made of 5 elements. So we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam. We're in the 6th canto. As you know, there are 12 cantos, and according to the acharyas, the different cantos represent the different parts of the Lord's body. Srila Prabhupada, from the very beginning, he encourages us to read Bhagavatam in a systematic way, right? We often hear this warning from Prabhupada not to jump over, not to go to the 10th canto and try to enjoy, he says specifically the Rasa Lila, the Rasa dance, and then we think that we are in some very, very elevated state, and then we forget about everything else, right? So he painstakingly, he translated, he commented on Srimad Bhagavatam. He wrote all these books for our benefit. So, as I said, the different cantos represent different parts of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The 2 first cantos represent the lotus feet of Krishna. Canto 3 and 4 represent his legs. Then Canto 5 represent his waist. So we are in Canto 6. So we are in Krishna's chest today, or this period of time, while we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto. So 6th canto represents his chest, 7 and 8, his arms, 9, his neck, and 10, his lotus face, beautiful lotus face, as Prabhupada explains. And then 11, his forehead, and 12, the crown. All right, so we can have we're climbing like that. I mean, hopefully, in our understanding. That's one description that the acharyas give. Another description that Jiva Goswami gives in regards of the Srimad Bhagavatam is that in the Srimad Bhagavatam there are 10 topics or 10 subject matters that are described, right? Creation, subcreation, different things, right? But we don't want to, because generally we don't have enough time, but don't want to make it too complicated, want to make it simple. Srila Prabhupada writes in one of the early purports of the Srimad Bhagavatam that the purpose of the appearance of the Acharya is to condense the essence of the scriptures and present it according to the environment. And that's what Prabhupada did. You see, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had already, and many other Acharyas had already commented Srimad Bhagavatam, right? We have commentaries of the Bhagavad Gita, we have commentaries of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we have commentaries of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So one may wonder, I used to wonder when I joined and got to know some of the things, why Prabhupada just didn't reprint some of those books and just present it like that, right? And it took me some time to understand, hear explanations, etc. And when I found that purport, I forgot exactly where, but it's in the first canto, that's the purpose of the Acharya. So Prabhupada came to present Krishna consciousness in a way that we can understand. We people from Kali Yuga, covered by the modes of passion and ignorance. So, as I was saying, Jiva Goswami explains that there are 10 topics. And one of those topics is called Poshana, or protection. So throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, different things are explained. How the world is created, how there are sub-creations, etc. Like that, many things, and deeper and deeper. But this particular canto refers to the aspect of the Lord in terms of Poshana, or protection. Right? So that's going to be the topic of today's discussion. So generally when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, from what I have learned from seniors, Vaishnavas, is that generally there are 3 contexts in which we read Bhagavatam. One context is the context of the story that we are reading, right? Like in this canto, generally mainly there are 4 pastimes, 4, we may say, characters. Who remembers who those are? Question time. Now we are awake. Ajamil. Right? What's the other one? Huh? Britasur, that's the, okay. Daksha, that's another one, Daksha. And then Britrasur, that's right, the one that we are right in the middle of the pastime. And then Chitraketu, right? Because after this, what will come is, how come, you know the story, I heard comments about some of the classes, very nice classes I heard. No? I haven't been here, so. But Vritrasura, as you know, was a great devotee, right? So how come he was born as a demon? So just to spoil what's coming, I'll tell you why he appeared as a demon. Because he was a devotee in his previous life. He was Chitraketu. And the story is described, right? That because he took shelter of the Lord, he was so, I mean, nothing worked for him. Sometimes we think life is going hard for us. But Chitraketu is that example. When we read Bhagavatam, we should be encouraged. Because Bhagavatam is a story of a lot of tragedies. We think our life is tragic. But Bhagavatam is a lot of tragic. Narada Muni, an orphan, and so many other, Parikshit Maharaj, he was terminally cursed to die in 7 days. So a lot of tragedies are here. So when we think, oh, my life is so tragic, just open Bhagavatam, you'll get some hope. Because at the end of it, everything works out. Why? Because of the protection of the Lord. That's the beauty of Bhagavatam. Sometimes people come and say, oh, my life is not working well, this and that. Bhagavatam is a great example. Vyasadeva, a great author, writer, this and that. He was depressed. He was not traveling well, as they say, right? Because Narada Muni explains, because you haven't directly glorified the Lord. So Bhagavatam gives us this hint. We may be going through different situations, but in Bhagavatam we find, you see in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, for example, Arjuna was depressed, right? He was crying, he was shivering, he threw his Gandiva bow, right? And he says, I'm not going to work. I'm not going to do what I have supposed to do. I'm not going to fight Govinda, right? So then Krishna explains the Bhagavad Gita, 700 verses, for his upliftment. So this aspect of Poshana, protection, or as Krishna says in the 922 of Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Shemam Bahamyaham, I will protect you. I personally will protect you, the Acharyas explain. You know that story of Arjuna Charya. Have you heard that? I'm sure many of you have heard that story. Some of the Pandits, I'm sure, have heard it many times. But I'm going to say it anyway. How Arjuna says, what's that verse? That I'm not tired of hearing your glory. So sometimes when we repeat, we should remember that. Right? One time Prabhupada was giving a class, and he was giving, the Hinos mean line, we're not the body. And so one devotee walked out. Right? Prabhupada noticed. And then Prabhupada called the devotee. He says, why did you walk out from Bhagavatam class? Oh, Prabhupada, I get it. I'm paraphrasing. But, I get it. I understand it. No, you don't get it. That's the problem. You don't get it. But the point is that sometimes we repeat, and repetition is good also for learning. So anyway, the story of Arjuna Charya is that he's a great scholar, and he's commenting on Bhagavad Gita. So we have, what's that verse? 922, Ananyas chintayanto mam, jaya mam parupashyate, tesham nitya vijuktanam, yogashamam bahamyaham. Those Bhakti Shastris have to show their erudition here. So in that verse, the last line, he says, Yoga Shemam Bahami. Those who know Sanskrit, I don't know Sanskrit, but from what the Acharyas explain, Burijan Prabhu in his book Surrendered Unto Me, he puts this story there. And then Bahami means that the Lord personally provides, right? I don't know, in Hindi or Bengali has some connection, but Bahami means that the Lord personally does it, right? So when he's commenting, Arjuna Charya is commenting on this verse, he is reading the Sanskrit, and then he says, he thinks, no, this is not right. The Lord won't personally come and give me, my money for the rent or for my boga or for the rickshaw or for this, that, and the rice and the, all what you need, right? But let me think, maybe, those of us who write and edit, sometimes we get fixated in getting the right word, right? And then he crossed the word Bahami, and then he writes Karomi, right? And Karomi means, or the definition of the expression is that I will make it happen. Like when you manage something, it's not you necessarily go and do that something. You ask somebody, right? You call someone, you hire someone, you request somebody. You don't have to necessarily go and do it. So that's why he wrote Karomi instead of Bahami, right? So then he thought, oh, I did a good job. And then he goes off after to do his begging. He's a Brahmin, so he goes around like a monk, and then he gets his donation. So what happens is that his wife heard a knock on her door, and there are these two boys, beautiful boys, one whitish complexion, the one darkish complexion, right? And they are bringing all this rice and vegetables and different things. And then, they are poor Brahmins, In those days, Brahmins used to be poor. Now things have changed a little. But you're not meant to be poor. But anyway, that was, so she was surprised. And, but she accepted these very kind boys, talking nicely. But then she was refusing. She was like, no, this is not right. This doesn't fit in the script. But they were quite persuasive. So finally they say, look, if you don't take these foodstuffs, your evil husband, he'll come and beat us again. Oh, she thinks, no, my husband is he's a nice person, so far I know. I have a double personality, but I never, knew him like that. So then the story goes that the blackish one, right, he turns and then he shows mark like that on his back. Right? So then she accepts, and then she gets upset. You know, how can he beat these two nice, kind boys, Brahmin boys? How can he do this? She gets upset and she cooks everything. She offers to the Lord and she takes prasadam. That's a big offense. That's like rebellion right there. That's riot, right? For a Vedic wife to cook, offer and eat before the husband, correct? I don't want to create controversies here, but anyway, that's what the Shastra says. So Arjunacharya comes home and then he sees wife eating. What is this? You know, he started wondering what's happening here. So he asked, dear, you know, Shri, what are you doing? What's going on? I don't know in what tone he asked, you know. Nowadays you have to be very careful what you say, how you say it. And then she complains, you know, you have beaten up these boys and you are, you know, complaining about me not doing the right thing. Well, how can you abuse these kids? Child protection issue. And then he realized, you know, what by the descriptions immediately he started, you know, he's describing Krishna and Balaram, and so he understood that by the Lord's mercy, Krishna has appeared to give him a lesson like that. In any case, that's a very important verse when we talk about protection. Prabhupada translate the word Shema, Yoga Shemam Bahami Aham. Prabhupada translate Shemam as the merciful protection of the Lord. So the topic today is protection, right? So we can say many things about the story and how the demigods and the asuras, and you know, you heard it all pretty much. So today we try to make it a little bit more personal. As I was saying generally, there are three contexts in which you read Bhagavatam. One of them is the context of the story, so you know who said what, who was who, next life, and who will be who next, you know, previous life, next life, you know, all the context of that story. Yeah, another way to study Bhagavatam is also in the context of the book. That's why I mentioned that one of the aspects that is described in Srimad Bhagavatam is Poshana, or protection of the Lord. So we're trying to see it in that perspective, right? How this story represents the protection of the Lord. So that's another context, right? For example, you know, there are 6 questions that the sages of Naimisharanya presented in the beginning. We should all know those 6 questions, right? So now you're awake. I'm going to ask them. But one of those questions is, what is the purpose of Krishna's appearance? That's one of the questions that the sages ask. There are several questions, but one of those questions, the one that I'm just going to refer to, and that I hope you remember at the end of the presentation, is that what is the purpose of Krishna's appearance? So, 3 contexts: the story, the Bhagavatam itself, and also the third and perhaps the most important context in which we need to analyze the Bhagavatam is in our own life. How Bhagavatam, how Bhagavad Gita applies. We may know all the details of all the characters of the Bhagavatam and the different stories. We may know all the philosophical points. We may know all the titles of all the cantos and all the chapters. I have a friend who knows all those titles and all the chapters and all the cantos. Very, very nice to hear. But if we do not apply Bhagavatam in our life, then what is the point? Yeah? I mean, some purification is there. But like a devotee used to say to us when we were very much more neophytes, he said, Bhagavatam class starts when Bhagavatam class finish. Real Bhagavatam class starts when Bhagavatam class finish. Like that. So Bhagavatam class starts at 9 a.m. So when we apply this knowledge, when we are able to take that lesson, or those lessons that we hear in Srimad Bhagavatam, that's when Bhagavatam happens. And what does it mean Bhagavatam happens? Srila Prabhupada explains that you see Krishna face to face. Of course, we know, Prabhupada explains, bhakti noi, bheda noi. I have no bhakti, no devotion, I have no knowledge. He writes in that poem when he arrived to New York, bhakti noi, veda noi. Name kubdhoro, but I have a strong faith in your name. Bhakti Vedanta nam evisartha koro. Make this name of Bhakti Vedanta to have the true meaning. Let bhakti and knowledge be manifested by the strength of your name. Like that. That's Prabhupada's prayer. So, in our case, this is Prabhupada. We may say, yeah, but we're not Prabhupada. That's a common argument that we hear. So, in our case, we have to, and we are writing our own, I'm in camera, so I cannot, say too wild things. But in one sense, our own Bhagavatam is going on. Right? Prabhupada wrote his Bhagavatam. We are writing our own Bhagavatam. We have our own translation, our own purport, etc. and our own application. So, one time Bhakti Vikas Maharaj told me, before he was a sannyasi, he said, I never read it, but he said it, so I believe it's somewhere in Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada's conversations, classes, somewhere. I never came across that. He said that Prabhupada said that the best plan is the one that works. He said that. I remember. Bangkok. We were trying to open some lock, and I was saying, no, it's this key. And then he was trying that key, and it wasn't working. And then he was just trying a bunch of keys, and he was trying. He says, you're saying that key is the one, but that key is not working. So what is the point? It's like Prabhupada said, the best plan is the plan that works, he said. And then eventually he found the key, open. And I thought, oh, confirmed. So we may write our own interpretation of what Krishna consciousness is, but we have to see if it works. We have to see if the result of our application of Bhagavatam, it's giving the result that it's meant to give. Simple result, susukam kartumavyayam. Right? Chapter 9, text 2. Pandits have to correct me. Susukam kartumavyayam. That you're happy in Krishna consciousness. Right? That you're performing your service and you're thinking, gee, I'm happy of being a devotee. I'm happy doing this for Krishna. You ask yourself, we ask ourselves, like Sachinanda Maharaj says, this is the, what do you call, litmus test? What's that? Litmus test, right? It's a strip of paper, colored paper, right? And then you put it in particular fluids, right? And then you see the alkalinity and the acidity, and then it goes, changes in different colors. So he gives this example. So I don't want to be a shameless thief, so I'm just giving credit to those who deserve it. So I heard it from him. Great example. So we have to do this litmus test in our life. Am I happy being a devotee? Am I happy doing this for Krishna? That's a question. But anyway, going back to the point, what is the topic today? Protection, Poshana, Oshema, 922, Bhagavad Gita. So I was coming this morning to the temple, and this big storm was coming. I was thinking, where is my protection? Where is my umbrella? Where is my coat? Where is Krishna to stop? I'm going to give Bhagavatam class. Where is my protection? Right? Protection generally is experience when drama takes place. Don't we experience that? So my question to you is, what is your tragedy? What is your drama? When do you feel Krishna's protection? Yeah? Generally we have a time for questions, but I want to take advantage of my time. When do you experience Krishna's protection? When is the time that you experience most vividly Krishna's presence? I can guarantee, I can bet, we don't bet, but I can bet whatever money I have, that you experienced Krishna's protection when you were most in trouble. Right? Can guarantee, yes? Yeah, see? Not a mind reader, not a fortune teller, but I can guarantee that generally that's what happens. Because that's when it aches, right? That's when you cry, God, help me. Yeah? Oh my God. Right? When it aches, when it really, really, you know that you're in trouble. That's when you think, Krishna, I have nobody else. So, the question is, how do we obtain Krishna's protection? That's what we're discussing. That's what these 18,000 verses were spoken. That's why the 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita were spoken. Right? And what Queen Kunti says, we hate to hear that verse, don't we? We hate to hear those verses. Bring more and more problems. Do you pray like that? I don't pray like that. I definitely not. She deserves a trophy, diplomas and everything. Someone who prays like that, it's not an ordinary person. So she prays, please give me more trouble. Just compare your prayers and her prayers. Right? Like Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, the famous prayer that he composed, let the suffering of the people come to me. This is not an ordinary thing. Why? Because we need to ask why. I remember a long time back when a couple of years ago, I gave a class, and I was quoting Admatata Prabhu, the old Gurukul teacher, Prabhupada disciple, and he said to me, you have to always ask why, right? You have to ask how, and you have to ask what for. That's basically Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prajoyana. Why you do something, how you do that something, and what are you going to get. That's intelligence. I remember, wow, amazing. So why would somebody take so much suffering from others? Right? Like in the case Prabhupada quotes, Haridas Thakur, he quotes, who else? Prahlad Maharaj. He quotes Jesus Christ. Yeah? Why these great devotees will ask for more trouble? Why Vasudev Datta? He asked Chaitanya Charitamrita, we see. Prahlad Maharaj, he quotes like that. Why? You have to ask that question. Why? You know why? Because those who endeavor to protect, to care for other devotees, non-devotees, whatever, Krishna takes a special care of them. That's why. So these are not fanatics that do things without reason. These are very highly intelligent people. This is the way. If we want the protection of the Lord, then we have to follow in the path of those who attract the protection of the Lord. That's why we pray to Nishingadev. Why Nishingadev here in Mayapur is so famous all over the world. Devotees from all over the world, generally those who live in Mayapur, do you have that experience? People ask you, can you do some puja? My son is in trouble. My father is this and that. My this one is that one. Can you do some puja? Yes? All of us, those who are living temporarily or whatever time we're allowed in Mayapur, we have that experience. We go, Nishingadev has a special area there. Radhama is always beautiful and amazingly decorated by pujaris and everyone in that department. Then Panchatattva manifesting their magnanimity. But when you go to Nishingadev, something that I cannot really describe or explain happens. But that is exactly what we are talking about here. That Shema aspect of the Lord, that He personally comes when He sees His devotees in trouble. So, just trying to make it practical, how do we obtain the mercy of the Lord? Right? Krishna, at the end of the 12th chapter, he describes how a devotee becomes very dear to him. And then at the end, the last verse, chapter 12, text 20, he says, very, very dear to him. So, you know the famous line that Prabhupada used to quote, referring to his Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He says, don't try to see Krishna. We know that by heart. Don't try to see Krishna, but try to behave in such a way that Krishna will want to see you. Right? Also, Prabhupada used to say that when we chant Hare Krishna, in reality we're not chanting to Krishna. Who are we chanting to? Radharani. Prabhupada explains. And then when we chant, we implore her mercy. Hare Krishna. And then Prabhupada says, when we chant intently, then Radharani will say, no, Krishna will say, there's a conversation. A few times Prabhupada actually said that. He said, who's this fellow chanting my name? And Radharani will say, oh no, he's your sincere devotee who's trying to, serve, is trying to do something, trying to help your devotees, etc. Prabhupada will. So this process is very simple. So to attract the protection of the Lord is actually not a complicated thing. It's quite simple. But we have to learn those steps. And the first step, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains, is to be humble. Right? To understand that we don't deserve the protection of the Lord. That we don't, this is not even our exclusive conception. In many other religious processes, this is emphasized. That we don't deserve, but we are especially blessed by Krishna's mercy. And then He sends help through His devotees. Virabahu Prabhu, the spiritual master in GBC, in our movement, he used to say, he has some maxims. And he used to say, without devotee, there's no God. Like that. Without devotee, there is no God. And he will give a whole class about it. Basically, without the mercy of a devotee, we cannot obtain the mercy of Krishna. So if we want the protection of the Lord, the first step is to be humble with a devotee of the Lord. That's a shortcut. Right? You want Krishna to protect you? Go and seek the protection of a devotee. That's it. Yasya prasad, Bhagavat prasad. Yasya prasad, nagati gutopi. Like that. So, again, the main question is, how do you feel the protection of the Lord? When was the last time, or when was the best time that you felt Krishna's protection? Right? And don't think that was the last time, because more are coming. It's a prediction. More are coming. And as I was saying, the protection of something or someone is generally experienced in a very tragic situation. And as you know, Bhagavad Gita, where was it spoken? Many tragic situations here in Bhagavatam. Many wars, demigods killing, asuras fighting back, and people falling down, and people feeling depressed, and people being cursed, and etc. Many situations like that. So, when there is tragedy in our life, just like when Arjuna was faced with this tragic situation of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, then that protection of the Lord is felt. Isn't it? You read the last verses of the first chapter, then you feel empathy. You feel like Arjuna is trembling, this great warrior. And then, after a few chapters, a few verses, how many verses Krishna talks about the soul? Like 30 verses, like a machine gun, right, of knowledge. And then immediately Arjuna feels relief. Sometimes that's all what we need. We may spill out our our miseries to someone. Then the devotee listens, and then he gives some advice, some direction, and then you feel relief. So let's not think that the Lord has to come and He has to show Himself or a voice, like in the case of Narada Muni and other great personalities. But we see the protection of the Lord through the agency of the devotees. Okay, so that's as you see, now time is over. So we're going to stop here. I know this is a big, big topic. And I hope you have some answers, some questions for this question-answer presentation of the Bhagavatam, which is how to obtain the protection of the Lord. So, any questions, any comments, any corrections? Read the verse if you want to. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, Dhadichi Muni, the son of Atharva, thus resolved to give his body to the service of the demigods. He placed himself, spirit soul, at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this way gave up his gross material body made of 5 elements. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Gantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi.